All right, welcome to podcast number 4. This week's guest is MJW by popular demand. Bobo mentioned last week that he's been posting awesomely in TZ about the NBA for a while now, and by popular consensus, he's been one of the favorite TZ posts of the year by pretty much everyone, and everyone's really appreciating and respecting what he's bringing, and we're glad to have him here. MJW, we'll also be calling Matt at times. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Very cool. So what brought you to 2+2? What are you here? You told us before we had to record this a second time, so we kind of know what to expect here. On our end, maybe we'll have a few questions this time, but you can go ahead and let us know again how it was you came to find TZ and what's going on here.
Sure. I went to the University of Michigan, and I actually lived with Zimmer from SE for 3 years. He was a year behind me, and he's posted on 2+2 for quite a while, I think. Back in like 08 or 09, during the first NBA draft in SE, he was showing it to me. We were kind of talking about it, so I decided to sign up. I read some of that draft, read a lot of Threadzilla and some NFL, some MLB stuff, and I liked it. I've learned a lot about, especially about the NBA, posting on 2+2, and so I've kind of stuck with it for the last 6, 7, 8 years.
Nice. So, were you involved with poker at all? Have you done that aspect of the form at all?
Not really. I've played a little poker, but I never played at much of a professional level. I've just kind of always done it for fun. I mean, I know the basics of poker, and I'm a pretty decent player.
Zimmer?
Just like in house games, we would always, because Zimmer, when we were in college, Zimmer was always really successful. He won the Sunday Million one of the summers that we lived in Ann Arbor. So whenever we would have a home game, everyone's goal would be to beat him, and we would always give him a ton of shit if he wouldn't win. So that was always fun.
Nice, that's awesome. So
wait, I forgot that happened. So Zimmer's in college and wins the Sunday Million for what, like $250,000 or something like that?
It was right around that, I believe.
And so did he go from being like a mini baller to like an extreme baller for a few months, or how did he handle that?
Yeah, maybe we should ask him in the fact when we're done. He bought a new car. I remember that. He didn't do a whole lot of that, because I know the following summer he went to Vegas for pretty much the entire World Series of Poker. So I think he saved a lot of money, and I think he kind of played at some higher limits after he won that.
yeah, as many do. Cool. So in terms of TZ, that's what you're known for. That's some of the vote to why you're here. So speak about a little bit about TZ this year, how it's been going for you, how in general you see it evolving. I mean, what's kind of the state of TZ right now in your eyes?
First thing you should say is tell Troll Stoy to shut the fuck up. Like, once in a while, like, you were too conservative. You're like, hey, don't feed the troll. No, fuck that. Like, they'll listen to you. Tell them shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I think that's more your style than mine, Wiper.
Yeah,
but,
I know that. But, they would listen to you. Like, he would listen to you. He doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little earlier. One of the most annoying things about TZ to me this year was after every single Hawks game, after like 25, 30 games into the season, in the game day thread, Trollstoy would troll his way through the game day thread, talking about how the Hawks, and he was actually right in how they peaked too early, and the Hawks fans would always bite, and it lasted about. It ended up being about 50 posts of just worthlessness in the game day thread that you had to wade through every morning.
Like, I remember you said something about it. Didn't you say something about this is going to cause me to stop posting here, or I can see why? People would.
I'm not sure. I mean, I've definitely had those thoughts before, but I don't know if I ever posted that. I enjoyed talking about basketball in general. I've gotten more into it this year. I had a post earlier in the season about the Cavs offense and how I thought that it was better than what the results were early in the year. And actually, Seth Partnow linked my post to the editor at B-Ball Breakdown, and so I've been posting on B-Ball Breakdown this year a bit, and I've kind of gotten more into it, and I've been sharing some of the stuff I've been looking at and working on in TZ. So I hope people have enjoyed that.
So Bobo talked about that last week. He said that there's a bit of a brain drain going on, where a lot of the good TZ posters are now bringing their content to other places. So now that you have the platform of the other site as well as 2+2, how do you find that you're splitting the information, or does the best of it go to the site, or how does that work?
I mean, I write maybe 2 articles a month, so it's not like I'm posting a ton of stuff on B-Ball Breakdown. I use my Twitter account more often now for NBA stuff, almost exclusively for NBA stuff, and I think I share my stuff on Twitter and on 2+2 pretty evenly. I think it's, for me, I've always enjoyed TZ, and I learned a lot from it, so I'd kind of like to, help almost give back in the same way, because the posting hasn't been as good as the last couple of years as it was when KBFC and those guys were posting a lot, well, more often. So I think I've been sharing it pretty evenly, I would say.
We had Bobo on last week, and he said basically the same thing. Like, why do you think that is?
It's hard to say, and it's kind of unfortunate because the NBA is coming out with all this new terrific statistical information, and it should be something that you would think TZ would be very interested in, breaking down and just talking about, but it just kind of hasn't worked out that way. I don't have a good explanation for why. I don't know. I think people at a certain point got bored because basketball statistics got more solved, I guess, for lack of a better term, than they had been. But now with all that new information, I'm kind of hoping that TZ can turn it around and use that information to come up with some good stuff.
So you just made an interesting point when you said that some of the stats seem to indicate, or could indicate, that basketball is getting more solved than it used to be. Certainly not solved, but more solved, more understandable. But do you think that it's also been interesting in TZ to see that we've seemed to value in TZ efficiency and sort of like maximization more than we seem to value the actual functioning of a particular squad?
Yeah, that is. I think that's a point that it's a very good point, and I think it's something, given the Hawks this year, the Spurs last year, and the year before, that people I would hope are reconsidering a little bit. That the Hawks, they don't have a superstar on their team. The Spurs have great players, but they don't have a top 3 player in the league, and the way their offensive and defensive schemes work, and the way they get their players to buy in, I think is definitely undervalued, and it should be something that kind of gives people pause to think about the game a little bit differently.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that TZ makes about understanding basketball?
That's a great question. I'll tell you, one of the things that bugs me, and it's not quite on point to your question, but I guess we can mention this ridiculous top 20 list that we just saw, and just the incessance on ranking people, ranking shooting guards, ranking small forwards, ranking power forwards, ranking everything imaginable, when basketball is so much more complex than that. It's really a matter of getting the pieces to fit together, and finding systems that work for given what you're working with personnel wise. And I don't think TZ always gets that. It kind of goes to just general using context in evaluating statistics, and that's something TZ definitely misses the boat on from time to time. So the whole ranking players that's probably my biggest pet peeve.
Do you think that a lot of the tending to post around this is the greatest of all time, or this person the worst of all time, or that was the greatest coaching decision, or this is so bad, et cetera, et cetera? Do you think that line of conversation, which seems so common now during game day threads and really all across the forum, is bringing on that same kind of behavior of we have to rank things and we have to know what's the greatest, and instead of thinking of things more of a blended sense of scale?
Yeah, absolutely. The idea that, I don't know, like if you were to rank the coaches in the league, you would basically get two lists: the greatest coaches in the league currently, Popovich and whoever else you might add, and then everyone else is like the worst coach ever. So that need to rank things extremely rather than recognizing that the real answer is usually somewhere in the middle, and that's okay. It's something I think the entire SE forum struggles with from time to time.
How do you rank coaches? Like how much percentage do you put into out of bounds plays versus player management versus how do you rank coaches? Isn't that difficult in itself?
Yeah, it's really difficult. And actually, just today, I believe, I think A.E. Jones had a post on ranking the importance of what coaches do, and the tendency is to, at least in SE, I think, is to look at the things that we see, the obvious mistakes in terms of like Tom Thibodeau playing Derrick Rose for 48 minutes when he just came back from an ACL, or bad rotations, things like that, playing Kendrick Perkins at all. Just things like that are very obvious, which I tend to think probably aren't nearly as important as we think. I think developing good systems, I think generally just keeping people happy is probably something that's very underrated, because it's hard to measure, and we just can't see it on the TV screens. But I tend to think that those things a lot of times are more important than the obvious mistakes that we see a lot of the coaches make.
Do you think that SE recognizes that the greatest of all time, worst of all time meme is a meme? I feel like everyone using it is using it as a meme. Like it's funny, not accurate.
Yeah, you would hope so. I mean, I use it just to be funny, or just to, I don't know, just to troll LeBron haters from time to time. But but when you look at like Wim or Will or whatever, that started out as a huge joke. I think Etats or somebody posted something about it. Then Miebenho came up with this ridiculous formula, and it was just supposed to be this ridiculous thing, making fun of how the media evaluates, LeBron for at the time not having won a championship.
Right.
And it, I don't know, for whatever reason, it takes on a life of its own, and we have to classify everything. Everyone is having Wim or an alpha or a beta, which that irritates me as well.
I think the alpha and beta came from Dean, right, in his pickup videos.
Oh, did it? I'm not sure.
That's what I thought.
Did Dean still post ever?
He's posted a little bit in the draft thread, but
yeah.
He
kind of ducked and hid after his last draft predictions, right?
I don't think so. I think he moved. I don't know what happened with him, but I mean
I think he moved to Mexico or something.
Yeah, he lives in Mexico.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Wiggins dunked him into Mexico.
He used to live.
I think he whiffed on Wiggins. I think I like Wiggins a lot, but I mean, Dean's someone who he put a ton of effort into what he did last year.
Oh, for sure.
And that's, I don't know. And it's the same thing in TZ. Bobo gets a lot of hate for being wrong. Like, Thayer trolls him around TZ all the time about Kevin Love. And he's, even this year, like, he's admitted that he was wrong about Kevin Love. And I don't know. I think that's another thing that people struggle with, or that kind of hurts TZ and SE in general, is like people admitting they're wrong is some sort of character flaw when it should certainly not be looked at like that.
Do you receive the troll PMs that Bobo was talking about and Needle was talking about?
I don't think I've ever received anything like that. No.
Man.
I don't know if I'm probably not strong enough of a personality for that.
Yeah, you're too calm. Too calm.
Yeah, I would just delete it, so it wouldn't bug me at all.
I catch routine hate from Trill Daddy Swag in the PM box.
Is that Stoll?
I don't know who that is. Yeah, I think it is. It's Trill Daddy Swag is also, he showed up recently. He sends me PMs about how he's coming at me with the GAT, stuff like that, on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think he did send me a PM about, I don't know, he was pissed off at someone in the thread, and I think I asked him if he was Raids or not, but he wouldn't confirm.
I asked him the same thing. He said, I don't know who Raids is. And then I checked him. It's I'll do it again. Keep talking.
Yeah, and I don't know, TZ gets, those people seem to pop up every once in a while, and they're just frustrating to deal with. Like, back, 4 or 5 years ago, we had funny trolls like D. Schmidrew. People like him, or Jumanji, like, they were funny, and they added some character to TZ almost, and now the trolls are just, I think they're getting angrier.
Funky Fresh and Shasty McNasty is who that is.
Yeah, I think what we were discussing earlier too was the problem now is the trolls are people like Trollstoy who just rehashes the same argument over and over and over again, and I think Raids too. And that was their style of trolling. It was not like, okay, if you have one argument once, you take a wicked contrarian side and you're annoying about it, but whatever, you just have this argument once and that's it. You just try and get a couple, people to fall for it, whatever. But then to just consistently do that over and over and over again it's just ridiculous. And I think that's where, I don't know, maybe it's a moderator issue of just like, you should probably step in and tell someone this is kind of the end of the road where this needs to not keep happening.
Yeah, and the king of doing that was Trainwreck in TZ. Like, he created, I think, about 80 posts all to tell us about how much harder Michael Jordan had it, and how he was so awesome because he dunked off 2 feet and all of these ridiculous things, and he just posted the same thing over and over again, and that's kind of how it's become.
And does he still show up? I haven't seen him make an appearance that recently.
I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, he used to be back like every week, I feel like, under a new name.
Yeah, I think he finally got the hint.
Yeah.
So let's can we give the trolls some food? Man, LeBron, like, if you had to start a team tomorrow and you get LeBron as a rookie or Jordan as a rookie.
Oh, God.
Who do I take?
Yep, and in 2015, like, you get the first pick in the 2015 draft, and you got LeBron or Jordan.
Do I get to GM the rest of the time, or do I have like incompetent GMs behind me?
Assume the best GM.
I would take LeBron. I just think what his passing, his vision, he just can create for the rest of his teammates, and he's so easy to build around. Even if you just do a competent job, you're going to have a great team. And certainly, Michael Jordan was awesome. I mean, I almost grew up a Bulls fan because I watched a lot of Michael Jordan.
Everybody did.
But what LeBron does for his teammates is, I think, unparalleled, and so I would ultimately take him first.
Hoya, who are you taking?
I'd probably take LeBron for the same reasons. I think particularly today that what Jordan offers is not as valuable as what LeBron offers. I don't want to have a conversation about making your teammates better because that's not what I'm talking about. The system that you run with LeBron allows your teammates opportunities to succeed that are not just the result of the defense collapsing on LeBron. Whereas with Jordan, you have a spectacular scorer, probably the best scorer who's ever lived. But I don't know that we utilize them in the league the way we used to, and I don't know that it's reasonable to expect him to have the same career in terms of like injury prevention, etc., that he had now. Not because of any particular reason, but because of the variance more than anything.
Can I ask Larry, who are you picking too? In 2015.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's really. I think it's a really hard choice.
See, I'm more with you.
I would. I mean,
like, I don't know. You know how hard it would say to not pick Jordan?
Well,
like I'm 36.
Yeah,
that's hard to say.
For me, just growing up and like watching the highlights and just like being, feeling like you're a part of it and just seeing this. And I mean, you don't forget too that Jordan went and played baseball, which was basically the height of his career, and there's conspiracy theories all over the place about what happened. I mean, he might have essentially got kicked out of the league for gambling mid-career, and that's like pretty crazy. At the same time, he was so much better than players in the league that he was getting almost bored of it too. So I don't know. I would probably take Jordan, but I think you can't really lose. If you have to draft Jordan or LeBron, like I don't think you're like feeling too bad about either choice. So
not that anybody cares what I think, but like am I the old? Like I'm 36. Am I the oldest of us four?
Probably.
We're pretty close.
I can remember as a child, as an 8 or 9 year old, watching Bulls games, and I didn't really understand how good he was. Because all I was looking for was, like, I didn't care if he dunked it. I wanted a breakaway dunk so, like, he could do some sweet shit. Because I was all about the dunk contest. But looking back now, and really the most advanced stats that I get into NBA, like, player efficiency rating and whatever, you look at the top player efficiency ratings of all time, god damn, he was better. It was almost like he was better when he was younger. And then as he got more help, that's when he started getting championships. So I still, as much as it pains me to say, it's so hard as a 36-year-old man who watched sports, grew up with sports, to not pick Michael Jordan number one. It's difficult to do. And all right, so the second question I would have is, for anybody, what was the year Jordan was drafted? 1986. Let's say rules are 1986. You're drafting in 1986. So you got the Pistons just beating people up, and you got like Robert Parrish beating the fuck out of Lambeer or whatever, and not getting kicked out. So who do you pick then? Do you still pick LeBron over Jordan then?
LeBron's got like 3 inches.
Does the rule change make a difference?
I think the further back you go, from my perspective, I think the further back you go, the easier it is to pick LeBron, if that makes sense.
I think one of the I should clarify, and I'm sure Hoya probably feels the same way. Is it's not an easy decision to pick LeBron number one ahead of Jordan by any means, but I think if you go back to that era, one of the most impressive things to me about LeBron is, people cry about him getting foul calls, but he takes such a beating sometimes, and he takes fouls that don't even get called that would look pretty bad on other players because he's so big and strong that I think he would actually he might have more injuries than he did, or than he does now, but I think he would do just as well in that era.
I think he would crush, exactly. Like, I think he's just such a physical beast that if you put him back against Wilt Chamberlain, against those players, he hangs with all of them, no problem. But I think Jordan is a different player in that sense, where he would benefit from modern fouls, from the modern game. I think like Jordan's game would work like at any point. Like he would be. We're in a league where Steph Curry's the MVP, versus way back in the day. Yeah, I mean it's rugged. You have mean,
How much
LeBron,
does he weigh?
290 or something.
Jesus.
And Jordan, the other thing, if you put him into 2015 as a rookie, he's
Right.
going to be a lot better shooter than he
Right.
ever was.
Yeah. I'm
I'm
thinking
glad
like
you brought that up because somebody is going to listen to this and go, "Well, wait a minute. If you can't hand check and there's no, there's all these fouls." I really, obviously, I'm a Cleveland fan. Obviously, LeBron is, like he's my key to the next several years of my fandom. But I can't tell you guys, even though I know that you're smarter than I am at NBA, I can't logically like if you tell me you can take LeBron or you can take Jordan, god damn, man, like that's Michael fucking Jordan, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I can't do it. But like what makes me the most mad is 2 rings, 6 rings. Oh my god, he's 2 and 3, and people started even pushing back and saying, well, you know what, if they lose to the Warriors, then he should have just lost to the Hawks because then he wouldn't have another loss on this. Like he's dragging this team with him, with Kevin Love hurt and with Kyrie hurt, and all these scrubs that like everybody else cast off. He's bringing them and just dominating teams. And if he doesn't win, there are going to be people that go, ha ha, like he's 2 and 4, he can't be like that shit. Like makes me want to choke somebody because they're clearly not watching.
I think a lot of the people who were saying that were saying it in jest.
Yeah, I was
just show how
that.
ridiculous.
But I wasn't serious at all. I was totally trolling with any type of LeBron hate. So.
Man, there are people that believe that shit. Like, no, he only has 2. Like that's the only thing. Like, put Pippen with Jordan. Like, put Pippen with LeBron. Like fucking listen, Mo Williams. Okay, he made that cat an all-star, and I'm still picking Jordan probably over LeBron. But the people that hate on him, man, like, get a fucking life.
I mean, I don't think anyone can actually realistically hate on him. I think that.
They do.
Well, I think that you have to have a pretty high level of cognitive dissonance in order to actually hate on him. I think most people just hate him, and looking through that lens, they can find an excuse for anything. I mean, I definitely troll people about LeBron's not clutch, about LeBron's not that good at times, and it's because I grew up watching the Celtics get beat by him. And he had that one game where, I forget what it was, but I was at the game. It was a game 6 where I forget what it was, but he went off for like 23 for 24 in the first half. I forget exactly what it was. Maybe it was 13 for 14 or something, but it was just like outrageous. Like he put up 30 points, I think, at halftime. We were down 15, and there was no chance. Like you were not coming back, and it was like the first moment where I was watching a game and I was just kind of like just in complete awe. Like, and everyone with me was in complete awe. The whole garden was just in awe of what we were seeing because it was the most dominant performance that I think probably anyone had ever seen in any sport. I should look up what the was.
Yeah, that was in 2012 because the Heat were down 3-2, and that was the year after they had lost to the Mavericks. So it was a pretty huge point for LeBron's career.
We brought Game 6 back home to Celtics, to the Garden, and everyone was pumped. The city was just super excited. It was a series that we never thought we would get that close in. To come out 3-2 and to come home with a chance at it you felt like you had a chance at stealing the series. The whole city was going nuts, like I was saying. The Garden was incredible, and the Garden gets really, really loud. And the Garden was loud pregame. And as soon as the tip-off started, and you saw what LeBron was about to do, the whole crowd went silent, and it never recovered. It was the quietest, and it was the most serene I've seen the Garden. It was almost like a surreal feeling where you were watching this guy, like, wow, this is an artist right now.
Yeah, and I mean, as a Pistons fan, that's kind of how I came to appreciate LeBron was.
Oh my God!
When he went nuts for
oh my God!
24, 25 straight points or whatever it was, and at the time I fucking hated him because the Pistons were still going strong at that point, but I don't know. Ever since then, I've had a greater appreciation for him.
Listen, when you brought that up, I got goosebumps. I'm laying in bed, because we're like Wifer and I are lame, and like we don't stay up real late, on weeknights. I'm laying in bed. I woke her up twice, and like she's mad at this point. And I said, okay, listen, are you like you need to sit up? And she doesn't give a fuck. Like sit up and watch what's going on right now, because right when the textbook the highlight dunk comes where he just swoops it around and bam, at that point it was like, listen, wife's gonna be mad at me for like 24 hours. I can't stop. Like at this point, like I'm just gonna go with it because I'm watching history right now. I'm sorry that I was on the other side of that than you, but like
Hey Wiper, I have a question for you.
What? So LeBron now is going into. Hold on, did you have a question, Hoy?
Yeah, about the Jordan and LeBron thing. How are you going to feel about that decision if LeBron drags this team to a title over the Warriors this season?
Perfect.
See, I don't know that would change. Like, I don't think that changes anything to me. It's just that LeBron, the fact that he's on the Cavs makes it, my heart. But like for longer amount of time, my entire life, Michael Jordan has been the best basketball player alive, and I don't know that he could have like I suppose if LeBron wins 7 championships, then I'm like, okay, well, Jesus. But it's not because of the number, just because I'm going to get to watch that as a thinking adult. But at this point, I'm already looking forward to next year, man. Like, I'm a Cleveland fan, and you guys can't understand that. Like, I can't let myself believe. I can't. It doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter the time of year. Like, if I allow myself to believe this is going to happen, MJW tell you, Michigan was beating Louisville in the national championship 2 years ago at halftime. And I was in my basement. It was just me and my wife. And I'm like, this is going to happen because Trey Burke was hurt or he had 2 fouls or something. And we got people just stepping up, and they're up like 7 or 8 or 9 at halftime. And I looked at her and I said, this is going to happen. And I will remember that for as long as I'm alive, as the moment that I realized, shut the fuck up, dumbass. If it's going to happen, let it happen. And like, I've accumulated like a decent amount, at least for me, of Cavs to win bets. Like, I have to, at this point, I have to bet on Golden State. I hold out hope that LeBron drags the Cavs with him, and Kyrie's ankle has a week to heal, and he's magically perfect, and J.R. Smith wins a game because he goes 7 from 9 from 3. But it's just hard to describe how I can't let myself feel that.
All right, so in general on the topic, what are your thoughts, Matt? What are you thinking here going into the finals? What's your final preview look like?
Man, please say the Cavs.
Well, I'll make you a little happy, Wiper. The Warriors are obviously favorites. I mean, they're an elite team across any year. I think, though, that the Cavs aren't as big at underdogs as a lot of people think. I think that there's a few things that I'm looking at, and I think the number one matchup to watch for is the Cavs' offensive rebounding versus the Warriors' transition offense. The Warriors' transition offense is where they get everything. I mean, that's what makes them an elite offense. And Steph Curry and Klay Thompson can obviously score in the half court, but if you can stop them from their transition game like the Grizzlies and the Rockets did at times, you can make them a much different team. So Tristan Thompson, I think, he is going to have to be very big on the offensive boards, and I think the Cavs are going to have to kind of be smart in terms of keeping their guards back to defend the transition game when Thompson and Mozgov don't get offensive rebounds. They can't crash the boards like they did against the Hawks or the Bulls. So that's one of the big matchups. In the half court, I went back and watched the last Warriors-Cavs game, the one game that LeBron played, and I was really impressed with the Cavs defense, especially in the half court. They basically hedged every screen, which is exactly the opposite of what Houston did, and they did it pretty successfully. So that'll be interesting. But Mozgov, in particular, was really good in terms of hedging screens and making Steph Curry give up the ball. And they're going to need to do that again, and they're going to need to rotate really well off of that pick and roll defense. The Warriors are really good at moving the ball off the pick and roll. And how the Cavs defend that is going to be key. I don't know if Tristan Thompson is going to be able to rotate quite as well. We'll see. Kevin Love actually rotated defensively really well in the game that I watched, which was a bit of a shock to see, but he did. And Tristan Thompson is quicker, but there's more to kind of defensive rotations than just being quick.
Was Tristan Thompson like a god against Atlanta and Chicago, or is he coming into his own?
NBA Finals.
Oops,
Okay, I'm not going.
That's
But
me.
I don't know. I mean, he's a terrific offensive rebounder. There's no doubt about it. He's improved defensively, but ultimately he does one thing, the offensive rebounding, extremely well. I think he'll probably get overpaid because of that.
Yeah, how hard are we going to get stuck with him? That's I guess that's my. If we get a title out of it, great. But if he, continues to just put up double doubles and with 5 or 6 offensive rebounds, and they don't win the championship, and they end up extending him for God knows how long, he hasn't played this well all season.
Yeah, I don't. But if you're the Cavs and you have LeBron and you have him in his last 4 or 5 years of when he's at kind of the peak of his championship equity,
yep.
I think you want to continue to add salary, and you have the team to do it. J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert are good complementary players. Kyrie can take some of the offensive burden off LeBron. Mozgov's, he's completely changed that defense. So I think the Cavs should be adding salary. They can afford to overpay guys because they're going to be a contender for several years.
So, what do you think about some of the matchups here for the finals? Who do you think Draymond Green's going to match up against?
I was thinking about that yesterday, and when I was watching the game from a few months ago, Draymond Green, he's a terrific defender. He really struggled to defend LeBron in the post, though. LeBron, he was just too quick for him, and I'm going to be interested to see if the Cavs go small more often than they might normally do, and just have one of Thompson and Mozgov on the floor at a time, and kind of force that matchup with Draymond Green and allow LeBron to get easier points in the paint, especially with how poorly he's shooting from outside in the playoffs. I think it might be smart for them to go small, get Draymond Green on LeBron so he can get to the paint a little more often than if he was being guarded by, say, Iguodala or Harrison Barnes, and get easier shots for LeBron and then easier shots off that penetration for J.R. Smith and Shumpert and company.
I was just going to ask you if you think the rotation is going to be basically Draymond and Iggy, or if you think that Harrison Barnes will get significant time on LeBron.
Yeah, Harrison Barnes, I think, will definitely guard him. He did an okay job in the post. LeBron's obviously bigger and stronger than Harrison Barnes, but Harrison Barnes is a pretty strong dude. He's played really well in the playoffs, and I like him as a defender. I think he can guard LeBron, and I think if you're the Warriors, Harrison Barnes, Iguodala, Draymond Green, I'll provide different things that you can force LeBron into doing, and so I think it might be smart for them to kind of mix it up and try to get him out of his rhythm of doing the same thing over and over again. LeBron kind of thrives on when he's got a smaller guy on him and he just goes to it over and over again in the post, or he has a slower guy on him and and he just drives over and over again. I think mixing it up and making him kind of see the floor a little differently and have a different look every few possessions on offense, I think that could maybe slow him down a bit. So I would, if I'm Steve Kerr, that's what I would be doing.
As a defense, what's the solution to Steph Curry?
Well, I think the real answer is you just kind of have to hope that he misses shots.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you try to trap him and you rotate off of that. But the best thing you can do is just try to force him into spots on the floor that he doesn't ideally want to be in. Contest his shots as well as you can. You know, he's got such a quick release. It's hard to contest his shots. But
Yeah.
One of the things that I last night in the game 5 that Jason Terry actually did okay with, and Curry kind of struggled, was just, you know, when you have someone like Draymond Green or Harrison Barnes open and you're chasing Curry, the tendency sometimes if Harrison Barnes or Green or pass away, the tendency is to go on to switch onto them to force them into, or to so they're not open for shots. But
Right.
But ideally, you need to be physical with Curry, and you need to force other guys to shoot, and then hope that Steph misses the shots that he is going to take, because he's gonna get shots. He's too good off the ball, even after he gets held all the time. But he somehow manages to get open and wide open a lot of the times.
Is he the best shooter, like pure shooter ever yet, or could he be?
I think he is. The level of difficulty of his shots, and he's certainly, I think, the best shooter off the ball ever, or on the ball ever. Creating his own shots. He's got such a quick release. It's so difficult to contest his shots, and for me he's the best shooter ever.
I saw a stat that said, I believe I'm getting this right, even though it sounds insane, that on the season he's shooting 90% from the left corner free.
Oh my God!
I think that's in the playoffs. I've seen
it's the
that.
playoffs.
Yeah,
Okay.
no fucking way.
I was gonna say that makes no sense. Okay.
Yeah, but so I mean that tells you a
It
little
still
bit.
makes no sense.
Yeah, but that's what he can do. But you know, I mean, basketball, you know, NBA is a make or miss league, and you know, it's turned into a cliche. But I mean, Steph Curry's gonna miss shots. He's gonna have games where he doesn't shoot well, and the Cavs are gonna need that to win the series. They're gonna need him to miss to shoot poorly from the outside once or twice at least.
Yeah, here's the stat. Sorry, so yeah, it's 91% in the postseason, but I believe it's 65% on the season.
Does
Yeah, that's
91%
crazy.
mean 10 out of 11 though? I mean, he's 10 out of 11 probably.
That's probably right.
Yeah, he's probably something like that. I mean, he doesn't shoot a ton of corner threes, although he does in transition. And I know he has had a lot of. He's had more transition threes, I think, on a per game basis than he did in the regular season.
Here's a fun one as I troll through Twitter looking this stat up. So it's 64% on 21 for 33 from the left corner, but that's actually 1 percentage point worse than Shumpert is on his season dunks.
Fuck. Hey, fuck you. Yeah, but he's got a better haircut.
I agree with that. Shumpert's been great, and I think getting him healthy has been huge, especially for the defense. I am interested to see Shumpert. I assume that Shumpert's going to defend Curry quite a bit, and he's a pretty physical defender, excuse me, and I don't see Curry getting maybe as many open looks when Shumpert's on him as he's used to.
All right, speaking of haircuts, who's got the better haircut between Larry Legend and CP Hoya right now? Like, sit up, like, let's look
Dude,
at
it's gotta be him. I got the
Let's look
bald
at 'em
spot
both right
going.
I have to get a haircut. I almost got one
Yeah.
today, brothers.
Man,
He's got to have better hair. And now I'm gonna get made fun of because of my
Oh, don't
face
scoot
again.
back. Hey, don't sit back so we
Right
can
here.
see. There you go.
Come at me with the bad haircut.
JW, who is it?
I think we have similar overgrowth.
Yeah,
That's
it looks
true, yeah.
actually similar.
I'm gonna pass on that one.
The no commenter. All right, so another topic we wanted to discuss were just general underrated players, talent, upcoming, good contracts to young, talented players, some bad contracts to young, not so talented players. What are your take on some of the development in the league?
So, in terms of underrated players, it's funny because a lot of the underrated players in the league are guys that are up for contracts, and I think are going to go from underrated and undervalued to or underpaid to better or more accurately valued. Somebody like Chris Middleton, who was huge for the Bucks this year. He's not flashy. He's I think he's kind of what Bobo and Asani wanted Landry Fields to be 3 or 4 years ago. He's a terrific defender. He passes the ball well. He's a good shooter. He's a guy that'll help you win games. He's one of my favorite underrated players. Kawhi Leonard. I mean, everybody knows who he is. He's the Finals MVP, but I still think, like, from the casual fans' perspective, I don't think people appreciate how good he is.
Yeah,
Jimmy
he's not
Butler,
much of a recognized name. He's probably a friend's name to some of the more casual type.
yeah, and then like Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green are kind of the same way. Good, these are 4 good two-way players who kind of do the stuff that aren't as sexy, but they all play good defense and they move the ball well. They space the floor, and they're all actually in line for new contracts this offseason. And frankly, you could see at least 3 of the 4 get max contracts for what they're due.
You think that with there's going to be a new deal soon? Do you think that it's going to be in the incentive of the teams to try and max people now? And do you expect to see less length in the coming year, or do you think the players will still go for it if they can get it?
It's interesting with the cap kind of exploding after next year. I like, for me, I wouldn't have a problem maxing, and when we say max, it's a $12 to $15 million salary. It's not the 25 million that Kobe's making.
Teams are going to want a max, and the players are going to want a max. So for next year, it's definitely going to be a max. But I'm thinking in terms of the length and the years of a contract, it's going to be tough probably. And I'm guessing we're going to be seeing a lot of player options. I'm not great on how all of the contracting works, but seeing.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to the contracts as much as a lot of people do, but you're seeing it right now. With guys like Kevin Love and LeBron, the way he structured his contract to have a bunch of player options and then see where the cap goes in a couple years. I think you could definitely continue to see that because we know the cap's going to explode in a couple years, but past that we don't really. It's hard to project it. So if it continues to rise a lot, players are going to want player options so they can continue to get paid a lot of money.
So what are some of in your opinion, what are some of the really good contracts right now in the league? Players who are going to be sitting around for a while that are providing some good value.
So, the way NBA contracts work, I think that the best contracts are almost always either rookie contracts or max contracts. Like Anthony Davis last year, I think made $5.5 million, which is pretty absurd given how good he is.
Yeah.
Then you have guys like Rudy Gobert, Steph Curry. I think is making like $10 or $11 million this year. Those early contracts are very valuable, and then I mean, honestly, someone like LeBron, because you have a maximum amount of money that you can pay him. I mean, he could get probably what? I mean, $40-50 million in
You know
a free market.
How much does that change? Is there a percentage? Well, like everybody knows about that new contract money coming in after next year. Does the top salary still peak out at whatever it does? Because that seems like I feel like, listen, put a hard cap in. Say you can pay LeBron if it's $100 million cap, you can pay him $95 million. Who cares? And then fill your roster out with scrubs.
Yeah. The way NBA contracts work is like those max contracts aren't a set amount of money; they're a percentage of the cap. So the maximum contract is going to increase, but it's still going to be between like 20 and 25% of the
hypothetically cap. Though, wouldn't it be kind of fun to see like the Knicks just toss out 90% of their cap to Kevin Durant or something like that next year?
It would create a lot more parity in the NBA. That's the way that you're going to create parity is by having basically a completely free market and letting someone pay LeBron 80% of their cap or whatever he would get.
You like baseball?
I mean, that's
too.
what,
do we need a hard cap in baseball?
In baseball?
Because fuck the Detroit Tigers for just throwing out money, and like my little, Indians are in last place, but they're usually like the little engine that could with these little puny little contracts. But you guys, I mean, at some point, aren't the owners going to push back? I mean, I know we're just switched it completely, but aren't the owners going to push back eventually?
Well, that's what I was thinking, actually, in terms of basketball, is, I don't know, I think I'm definitely, maybe I'm pessimistic, but I'm definitely expecting a lot better. At least, I'm guessing at least no preseason and probably no first quarter of the season.
When's that?
After next season.
Oy.
I mean, I don't know. I might be totally wrong, but the NBA seems really good at fucking up these negotiations.
Right, and what is it now? Like the owners, the players get 53, or the owners get 53% or something like that?
Probably.
Yeah, it's something like that.
And you think the owners are going to hold out, or the players are?
I think
the owners are going to lock them out.
The players can opt out, I believe, after next year, and I think the thinking is, in the last negotiations, I mean, and in any labor negotiations in the four sports, the owners, they cry about how poor they are, and then they get this massive TV contract where they're clearly making a lot of money, and the players union just elected a new president, and she seems to be pretty on top of things. So I tend to agree with Larry. I think that things could be interesting. There could definitely be a lockout.
Yeah, I mean, it seems inevitable, unfortunately, because I think it's also bullshit though for the players, because I think you're right that LeBron really, there's no reason that he's making $50 million a year or $40 million a year. According to like the history of the game, according to what people were making back 10, 15 years ago, what Jordan was making, what KG made in his contract. I mean, it's being artificially kept down, and the people that really hurts are the players that have limited careers, because you get, in general, more money. People are just going to make more. Veterans are going to make more. Other players are going to make more. But the all-stars will also, like the best players, they can make a fuck ton of money. I mean, LeBron, it would be incredible if LeBron could make $700 million just from playing in the NBA. But that could never happen. No one would ever be able to make that kind of money because they're artificially lowered. But I think he's seeing that his value as a player should be significantly more than what he's getting.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like you said, it does suck for guys. I mean, you look at the Blazers, and guys like Brandon Roy and Greg Oden, who could have gotten huge contracts, and they blew out their knees, and they made very little money when they provided a lot more value than what they ever got paid.
Yeah.
Hoya, do you like Hoya? Like, and the only reason I'm asking you is because you're a lawyer, and maybe one of the other two know better. But
I think they're both lawyers.
there
but-
has to be stringent. What's stopping the Cavs from saying, okay, listen, LeBron, we're going to give you 19 million or whatever the max amount is, but we're also going to give you 15% of the casino in downtown Cleveland. Like how like now obviously that's a A to B type of thing, but how hard would it be
That
for
would be
like these
called
billionaire owners to like
democracy,
give, you know, find their friends and say, listen, give him $50 million to do 2 commercials for your local car dealership or whatever.
So I'm going to say a couple of things in response to that.
Well, yeah, that's definitely though possible. But I mean, you're talking about embezzling, fraud.
How is it embezzling?
It's not. No, I'm not even. That's not even where I'm going with this. So the first thing is that it's a violation of the collective bargaining agreement. And if they got caught, their team would get penalized. That their wins would be. I don't know what the NBA would do because the NBA is not the NFL, and the NBA is run by people who are competent and intelligent, and the NFL is run by morons.
Well, I think we're assuming though that they do whatever it takes to just hide this.
I don't think the NBA would do that. And even assuming they would do whatever they could to hide it, the risk of ruin in doing that is very high. So that would be.
It has happened before. It happened with Joe Smith.
Yeah.
Is it the Timberwolves that tried to do it with Joe Smith? And I think they got a bunch of draft picks.
They lost draft picks. Yeah, I mean it's crippling if you get caught. So there's that problem. It violates the CBA, which of course LeBron is obligated to uphold too. And as a member of the NBA Players Association, he's not supposed to be breaching any of his obligations to the other players or in the league. He'd be doing that by doing that.
You can do it with dirty money. You could only.
That's what I mean. Like,
That's what
I'm
I'm
not
saying,
talking about like I'm talking about just being dirty about it.
Oh, well, okay. So
People
going
about that.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that too. So going that direction, where we're saying, look, it's just going to happen. My answer to you is that for all I know, it does happen, and until I know it happens, I don't know that it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Maybe it happens. I have no idea. Nothing. I guess theoretically, nothing is preventing that. But then theoretically, if nothing's preventing it, like there's not much to talk about because theoretically, there's nothing really preventing really anything.
Yeah. So it could be happening, but
yeah.
I don't think it is happening either. But I mean, a lot of crimes would be being committed.
I mean, I'm sure that. Listen. These are human beings operating a valuable business. I'm positive there are things going on that aren't supposed to be going on. Like, duh. But an interesting thought about the lockout that's coming for the 2017-2018 season. It is coming almost for sure. I want to make sure that the podcast is accurate about what happened in the previous negotiation in 2011. In that negotiation, the players went from having I believe it was 57 to 43% split, all the way to 50-50 with the owners. And that was because the union fell apart and did a terrible job in that negotiation. And they've been furious ever since. The proposal that there be cap smoothing from the league to the Players Association was a proposal that was going to diminish the costs, well, the expenses for the ownership groups over the course of a couple of years instead of having a jump right away. The salary cap is going to go from 66 point whatever million dollars is right now to approximately $90 million, and max contracts are going to go from about 23 million to 29 million for hometown significant period of time players. So like LeBron is looking at 29 million in his next deal. The reason Kevin Love wants to have a one-year deal or get out of this deal before he signs a huge deal is he wants a $29 million deal too. Anybody wants the jump, and so the players want the jump to remain because they've all been strategizing their free agency to coincide with the opportunity to benefit from that jump of something like 20% of their potential income.
Isn't that horrible, though, at the same time, that it's all like a perfect storm? Because it's like the owners are going to have to sign fucking hundreds, maybe billions of dollars.
I mean,
horrible for who?
My response to that is who cares? They make more than that anyway.
Yeah, horrible for who?
They're turning a profit, and it's their plan.
In terms of like the chance of having an NBA season happen.
Oh, it sucks for fans. There's going to be a lockout. They're not going to come to negotiation very quickly in this one, and that's frustrating. But at the same time, like we're going to have basketball more often than not, and this is a situation where the owners leverage their ownership of the teams over the players, and the players, not individually but as a union, blew it in the negotiation. And so there's going to have to be a correction, and that's what's going to be.
How do you guys think someone like Ballmer is going to impact this?
Right.
I guarantee you that Ballmer has as much interest in making as much money as possible as anybody else who's an owner and not a player.
Man,
Paid a lot of money though for that team. Do you think he's
Right.
going to get that back?
He probably has already gotten it back and more in the value of the Clippers today versus when he bought the team.
Well, I'm not saying they're not less valuable. Okay, maybe they're worth like 2.1, but I mean that feels good on paper. But
Yeah, I mean,
still
his
out
thing
of
is,
capital.
yeah, he's trying to win a championship, and I'm sure that he's investing in it for like the right reasons or whatever people want to talk about. But I mean, the reality is he's a business person who has a very expensive, very valuable asset that's appreciating, and I guarantee you he doesn't want to be paying the players more than he has to. And after all, it's the kind of thing where there isn't even really like a moral imperative to take the opposite stand because you benefit from it without even having to be the guy who's pulling the trigger on hosing the players.
But isn't that something like you want everybody else to agree to the letter of the law, but I'd like to be able to pay a couple extra bucks to people? I mean, like that's my thing is that when you're talking about, I don't know how much Steve Ballmer's worth, 10 billion or something like that.
19, I think.
And 19. And at some point,
Maybe less.
if there was a way for him to sneak somebody $10 extra million, like some six man or something like that, J.R. Smith or whoever the fuck, I can't imagine that he wouldn't do it because that $10 million it's a drop in the bucket if he can get past the second round.
Yeah, but
or
losing
into the finals.
Yeah, but like losing 2 or 3 first-round draft picks cripples his asset for the next 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, he's
It's not
gotta
worth it.
have some.
Yeah, I
he's
don't
gotta
think
have
he
some
would.
sort of like somebody smart enough to be able to hide that shit.
Well, what he's smart enough to do is be like, look, I'm in a great situation with good players, and I can pay you the max.
Yeah, you're right.
Ballmer definitely plays by the rules, and thinking like him, as you said, is it something you probably don't want to do. That dude's nuts. He's also, I think, going back to the Steve Jobs days, I think he was actually pretty good at conspiring to keep wages down. So maybe he will be a good asset for the owners.
Yeah, I really doubt there are too many owners who are advocating aggressively on behalf of the players. I mean, you have to understand, the players hate the owners. They hate them. And the owners don't appreciate the players either. The owners have to deal with the players to produce their product, but the owners think that the value of the product is the value of the asset, which is the franchise, not the players. So like when the new head of the union or LeBron says something like the players are what bring people to the seats and bring value to the league, without the players there is no league, the owners would respond, without us you don't have a league to play in, and more importantly we own all the stadiums, and we have all the advertising revenue, and we have all the TV deals, so like get fucked if you don't want to sign a deal with us.
That's really interesting to hear, and like I assume that's just the extra zero in your contract than mine, because I would love to think that like you hand me $19 billion, I'm not gonna give like one fuck about 1 billion or 2 billion. I'm gonna want to hang out. Like shit. Like I'm not gonna look at like somebody like I'm gonna pinch this guy for $200,000. Like that's like me saying like I'm not gonna give this guy $20 because
Probably like
he didn't mow my lawn the right way or something.
I mean,
You don't get rich by throwing away money, though.
No, you're right. Oh,
those
and
people
I agree
don't
with
do
that. But like, I'm just looking at Hoya right now, like in his green little shirt with his collar on, and I'm thinking, man, me and him think differently, I guess.
well,
Like,
no, I mean, I'm sure you're right that there are a few owners who don't mind paying more money.
Cuban.
Maybe Cuban, but I mean, Cuban's also a brilliant business person, and I guarantee you Cuban does not flippantly get rid of money.
So I have a question, a very abstract one.
Awesome.
What would happen if somehow the players were able to buy the teams from the owners and it became a player-owned like collective? What if a sports league did that? Is that too abstract to even consider?
MJW, you might know the answer to this. Something like that happened in the ABA with one team. I forget which team.
I'm not familiar with that. So
But wouldn't
I don't know.
it come down to the owners have better hookups with ABC and ESPN? So wouldn't they just kind of call in some favors and like kind of shut them down?
Well, first of all, the TV deals have exclusivity clauses, so for a while it's not even possible.
Well, I'm saying, like, what if the players got, like, say, like, a bank cost to buy the league, say, $70 billion, and they collectively bought the league from everyone? And, because, I mean, the value of the league together is probably insane.
I like
Probably,
that.
I mean, $100 billion, I don't know. Some bank gives them the money for this, and they buy it, and now they own it. They have a loan, but they play for themselves, essentially. Would something like that work?
I think it would fall apart instantly
Yeah,
because the superstars would be demanding like 80% of the money, and everybody else would want to murder them. It would be instant, I think. You couldn't even have a union because you have conflicting interests instantaneously.
I kind of liked it in 4 podcasts. I've gone from the person going, dudes, what if? And now, and now the guy that hooked all this stuff up, like, he's got this big grin on his face, like, man, just hang with me for a second here. Like, what if this? Like, I'm fucking with you, man. I'm sorry.
No, but it just feels like there's a huge amount of natural tension that has to exist between the owners and the players, the way the league is constructed. And
Like, which players, though? Like, are we talking about, like, because every
Like
time you
LeBron.
talk about this, I'm thinking LeBron.
yeah,
And
like look at
because
LeBron.
we're
Look
talking
at
about him because he's losing the most amount of money. But I also think by the time he's done, he's going to end up with a piece of the Cavs that'll end up like Jordan. Like, he'll end up owning a team himself. Like, are you talking more about LeBron or J.R. Smith?
I'm talking about everybody in the league. Every player in the league watched their income go from 57% to 50% in a series of negotiations, and all of them resent that, and they should.
LeBron's not going to be handed a percent of the team. Like, Jordan didn't just get a percent of the Wizards. They were like, hey, Jordan, you're cool. Like, here's just a 3% of the Wizards. I mean,
No, I know that.
I mean, LeBron's not going to be gifted a team. He would have to buy the team, or he would have to
Absolutely.
pick up some kind of equity stake in it. But, no, I mean, I think right now, I mean, look at what your owner said about LeBron when he left.
No, God.
Look at that email he sent or whatever, in, like, Comic Sans or whatever the fuck it was. That was just, I mean, then LeBron comes right back to him. He doesn't give a shit about that. They hate each other. I think they weren't talking after, like, the first game of the year, wasn't it? He, like, said something about LeBron publicly, and LeBron, like, basically told him to fuck off. He obviously hates the guy. I mean, LeBron should be making, like, 40, 50 million a year right now. Like, that fadeaway, that fucking 3 he hit the other day to win the game, I mean, that should be, like, a fucking $6 million shot.
That was my dog. I've only had my dog since February, so he hasn't experienced Michigan football season yet. That was his first taste of my dad just is flipping out. I don't know what's going on. He's barking. He's nipping at my, like, what is going on right now? Like, I lost my mind for that, 10-second span when that shot went in.
It was nuts. But, yeah, I mean, he's getting screwed over under this deal. He's not making anywhere near what he could.
Is anybody else looking at MJW's picture right now and thinking, man, is he really still smiling like that?
I think it's just you.
No, it probably isn't, man, because it's awesome. Like, that's how I'm going to always picture you now.
So before the podcast started, if we can transition, Wiper had some interesting comments about his dog, which is a puppy right now.
Can you show him, Micro?
Man, it's getting dark. Wait, like, he's inside. Like, give me a second. I'll get him out here.
Well, what were your
Like,
thoughts on
being a
on pet ownership?
I have 3 cats, but I mean, we don't have any kids, and there's really no plans to have kids, and we, cats are like, I've never had a dog, and I told you guys, like, he's 6 months old, and I'm already thinking 8, 10, 12 years down the road, when he dies, man, it's gonna be like losing a little brother or something. Like, he is, like, absolutely, like, my best friend, like, besides my wife, obviously. He just quickly backstory. A family that I teach found him, and it was in a couple week stretch of February where it was 0 degrees every single day in the morning, and we were off school all the time. And I got a text message one morning at like 8 o'clock in the morning saying, "What should I do with this dog on my porch?" And it's just this little thing, and his ribs are sticking out, and I'm like, man, give him some water, put him in your garage or whatever. Then she sent me a second picture, and I was just like, oh, like, that's the dog that I've always wanted. And his left eye is, like, I'm sure you guys can see in the picture, he's blind in it because the vet said somebody kicked him.
Definitely blind, you think? Or just hard, definitely blind?
Yeah, well, at first they thought they didn't know, but, like, since they tested him we got him neutered and fixed, and everybody kind of cringes when you think that, but when he was still out,
that's responsible dog ownership.
My first thought was, he's a male dog. I'm not gonna have to deal with puppies. Fuck
no,
no.
In fact, you wouldn't even necessarily know that he had puppies.
I'm from Youngstown, man. Like, that's how we do.
Those puppies could be like 4 streets over.
Right.
No.
there was a couple minute stretch, through this podcast even where I kind of put it on mute and I'm just throwing a frisbee back and forth and wrestling his little ass. I'm in absolutely, my wife said I'm smitten, and I don't know that I've ever been smitten before, but I can come home sometimes after school, and all he did was, rip up one book and accidentally break something that was like not important, and I'm still like, all right, man, like come here, like hang out, let's hang out. Yeah. So like, I don't know if you guys, does anybody, like, you guys have dogs?
I've had dogs. I don't have one right now.
I have a very similar type of dog to you. He was it's at my parents' house. I don't have him here, so I haven't had him around in years. And it's actually kind of sad to think about that. It's been like many, many years now since I've been actually with a dog full time. But yeah, he's like probably 70, 75 pounds, similar to your dog. If you throw him a tennis ball across the yard, he'll bring it back, ripped in half. And you can just toss it to him, he'll bite down and it'll break. And he's some kind of pit bull mix. He came from Georgia, and he was gonna get put down, but we were able to get him he came up here to a no-kill shelter, but they had one down there, so they send them up to New Hampshire. He has a huge scar on his nose where someone probably like hit him with a pipe or something, but similar type situation. But they're awesome.
Don't judge my yard right now, man. I fucked my yard up before, but it's kind of dark. But like, man, because he's actually getting a little anxious because we haven't missed a daddy doggy walk at night in quite a while, but I could sit here and do this forever.
I have a question, Wiper.
Yes.
Did you said that you've never been smitten like this before? Did you tell Wiper that?
Oh, she's the one that told me. I said no, I was smitten with you too. But like he really is like he's a very smart dog, and I guess I don't have a lot of experience with dogs, but look at it, God damn it, give me that. He's strong too, like he's got that jaw too. But it's fun, man. I don't like we're very free people, when we talk about like are you gonna like people ask are you gonna have kids, and like it's hard to say because I'm 36 and she's 35 and people look at us like what's wrong with you, and I guess I do worry sometimes when I'm old and whatever, but like we don't like being on schedules, we don't like being told what to do, we have lots, we have nephews and nieces and stuff. This is a little bit more our speed. Like we absolutely we're planning on going to Hawaii this summer. We've been there a couple times, and my cousin lives in Honolulu still, and we could stay with him. But we don't, we're like honestly canceling a Hawaii trip because neither one of us wants to leave the dog. And it's not about somebody watching them, because we have people that will watch them. I would miss them. So we're like, honestly, we're going to go to North Carolina to like a family reunion and then go down to the beach after that and take them with us. And like, like if you'd have told me a year ago, hey, listen, that money that you've been saving for Hawaii, you're going to have it all. You're just going to choose not to go. I'd be like, yeah, no, like I'm going to Hawaii. But like, this is my little dude, man. Like he makes us happy, man. It's a different kind of thing.
I think that's so awesome.
Look at him. He's looking at me like, what? Like, are we getting ready to go on the walk yet or what?
Does he know the word walk?
He knows the word no.
Okay, he's getting there. He'll eventually figure out what walk means, and you can't say that word at any time of the day anymore because it's going to trick him.
The car rides, man. Like I can't get in the car anymore without he scurries to the door, and you can tell like when he's just hanging out at the door because he's hanging out, and when he needs to pee, or when he's like, hey, listen, I know you're going somewhere, and I'm coming through this door. So
that's awesome. All right, cool. Well, I think that was pretty much it. Oh, we were going to cover one more thing. We're going to talk about what Bill Simmons will do now, but you know what? Fuck it. Bill Simmons ain't going to do shit in the next couple of weeks. Come back to Bill Simmons. We're not going to hear from his ass in a while.
That's one of those classic, like, you think you have more power than you do. And, like, people are still going to fall, but, like, imagine if he's on Yahoo tomorrow.
I think
I'm going to go read it, but, like, he fucked up a little bit. He did.
I think he's fucking up by not, like, doing something quick.
Well, I think he can't. I don't think he can. His ESPN deal doesn't expire for a while.
They
How
just put
long?
him on the shelf.
I think he's stuck till September.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that sucks that he has to go radio silent like that. That's so stupid.
He's tweeted a little bit, but not about anything interesting. I think he's pretty much just hosed.
Poor him. He's got to sit at home and make, like $900,000 a month or whatever the fuck he makes. Like, poor
He's
guy.
making so little, dude, compared to what his stuff was making. Like 30 for 30. Like 30 for 30. That's all you really have to
Has
say.
anybody actually proven that that's made money, though? Because that's the argument, isn't it? Like,
It's not
everybody
loose.
says, like, it's a status thing. Like, oh, my God, these things are getting good ratings. But does it actually
This
make
is the
money?
thing. So this is the thing. This is my answer, okay? So this is finally a time. I'm pretty decent with sports and stuff. I'm kind of a little casual fan. This is a topic that I'm pretty decent about. So I think ESPN is fucking up massively in getting rid of Simmons, because if you look at some of the most dynamic and awesome things that companies are doing right now, you look at something like Netflix. And what Netflix is realizing is that original content is incredibly valuable. Google has been saying that content is incredibly valuable in their search algorithm. Everywhere you look on the internet, people are saying that content, user experience, just the quality of information for a given topic, that's what people are gravitating towards. And Amazon still believes that it's the wild, wild west. And if you are familiar with the happenings of the web and the way that things are made, I'm talking about the way that, like, everything is made, like the connection that we're using right now, like all of the internet, it is so inherently vulnerable and early, and it's in just complete, just so at the beginning. By making a decision like firing Simmons because his ratings aren't good right now, they're completely missing the picture, because it's not about right here, right now. It's about 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Can you explain to me the bridge of firing Simmons to the internet in its infancy stages? You seem like you went from a really big idea to like a really small thing.
So what you were saying is trying to prove that things make money or don't. So I could probably, I'm incredibly good with web analytics, etc. for very large businesses, companies that you've heard of. I could prove to you, if you gave me access to the data for Grantland, I could definitely probably prove it's not making money. That what you put onto it, what you pay salaries of people to create content, is not making money. It's nearly impossible to have expensive paid people in a ad display play where you're just making your money off essentially advertising. They're not selling subscriptions. They're not selling merchandise. They're not really selling anything. They're selling inventory, and they're bringing in clicks and views. If you're paying a ton of people money to do that, it can almost never make money. So I could easily show you Grantland is losing money, but at the same time, I think the argument is that being known...
Market share. Is it market share?
Market share, and being known as the place to go for great content is going to be worth so much in the years to come as the internet grows, and could eventually touch the majority of the planet. People are working now on bringing the internet all over the world. The games we're fans of in America could become global games. If you had planes that could get you across the world in hours, and that were, very comfortable and easier on players' bodies, and it wasn't a big deal to set up global schedules, etc. Like, things are likely going to continue to scale. Population is not shrinking. I think just it's very short-sighted of ESPN to make those decisions about these sites that are losing money. But I think it's also important that people don't just assume that the sites do make money, because the sites do not make money.
Do you think
and
that
it's very hard?
They didn't make that decision based on losing money. They made a decision based on him being a dickhead, fucking with their NFL contract, and him going at Roger Goodell so often. Eventually, the NFL is going to say, because now you're talking about a couple $100,000, couple $1 million or whatever. But like, if the next TV contract comes up and ABC or Fox or YouTube or Google offers more money than ESPN, and now they come back to you and say, hey, remember all those times that you let this asshole talk down on us?
That's not real.
Isn't that more of it?
I don't think that's real. You're a journalist company. You're supposed to have integrity. You're supposed to have people who oppose certain things, who are free to speak their mind. That's like counter to journalism. It's more akin to corruption. And I just think it's bullshit to kick Simmons out because you don't agree with his opinion. He's shitting on a company that you do business with. I mean, that's just ridiculous for a media company to hold a standard like that. You should be allowed to kind of shit on anyone.
But ESPN,
they don't.
ESPN has a history of trying to enforce like content. Well, I don't know what they call it, but like content standards that would preserve their ability to negotiate in a friendly way with companies that are valuable to them.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, sure, that definitely exists, but I'm not saying it should exist, or that if it does exist, that it's the correct or it's right. You know. Speaking of which, we were going to touch on FIFA. The corruption there, a little bit different than the corruption we're speaking about right now. It's a little more in your face, super obvious, pretty much the worst thing in the world. I forget what it was the other day, but I saw like a pretty cool infographic. I mean, it was not cool, but it was well designed, and it was about deaths in major events and building major things, and it was like all of the different Olympics builds, and I think it was like crazy high buildings and stuff, and like maybe even like the old Empire State Building, and the Qatar Olympics is like an insane.
I know what you're talking about. It was on Deadspin. The infographic indicates that, for example, for the London Olympics, one person died building stuff. For the World Cup in Qatar, more than 1,200 people have already died. And we know, by the way, that they're working under human rights violation conditions and that they're essentially slave labor. We know that some of those workers have not been allowed to return to their countries to attend to like family funerals. We know that they made many of those workers participate in a marathon in Qatar where it was like 115 degrees. These are not marathon runners. These are construction workers.
Yeah, I have a question on this. 'Cause I don't follow soccer a whole lot. But do these World Cup countries or cities, do they like hemorrhage money when the World Cup comes to them like the Olympic cities do?
Yeah.
So I guess it makes the corruption and picking these cities that much more ridiculous. I guess it doesn't make any sense to me.
I want to
Go ahead.
I want to be clear about one thing. So the indictments that came down against FIFA actually don't have anything to do with Qatar. They have to do with earlier investigations, and those investigations sprang out of an investigation into Russian corruption. It wasn't the goal of this investigation originally to find FIFA corruption, but it found it, and so the U.S. Department of Justice is pursuing it.
Putin,
I do know that. Yeah,
Vladimir mad.
Yeah, making moves. Well, the investigation started with him, really. The interesting thing, though, is that I know that Swiss investigators actually raided a FIFA office in connection with the Qatar alleged bribery. I think it was yesterday. So, like, I think this story is beginning to unspool right now.
I think that they're going to squeal like pigs, at least half of them. Like,
they already have 4 informants. That's how this happened.
Yeah.
But like the thing to me, like, didn't Vladimir Putin say, how are they being charged in an American court if they're not American citizens and the crime didn't occur in America? And like to me,
you do business,
as much as I'm USA #1, and I get the whole, well, we got screwed, like, Boston or whoever, like America didn't get the World Cup, but like he's kind of right, and like everybody that watches soccer agrees, like this needed to happen, but he's also kind of right in that, like, Jesus Christ, like, what aren't there bigger problems in the world, like, for us to go at?
If you do business with us, I'll let Hoya or one of the lawyers explain this, but I mean, essentially, if you do business with America, that's somewhat even significant at all, you're under American jurisdiction to not, like, fucking up completely. But we definitely, like, our companies, they're paying FIFA money, like, they're paying the money, like, really, like, you're going to see people from probably, like, MasterCard, Visa, like, other, like, major brands go down in this, because if you're complicitly giving someone from FIFA $5 million cash or something directly and participating in bribery and corruption, I mean, you're not allowed to do that in business. Like, I can't just go out and, like, bribe sales guys and be like, hey man, hook me up with this deal. Here's like 5 or 10K for it. Like, that just doesn't happen, So
MJW, you want to take this about how the jurisdiction works?
I do criminal law, so you probably have a better understanding. I mean, I assume it has, and I haven't read the indictments or anything, but I assume it has something to do with how the interstate commerce.
Yeah, so these allegations arise from it's usually called wire fraud, but what's happened is a lot of the bribes have been paid through or deposited in United States banks. The indictment alleges that a lot of the activity took place in New York, which establishes jurisdiction in New York. One of the informants is a guy named, I think, Charles Blazer. He lives in Manhattan and pled guilty secretly in Manhattan and has to make reparation payment at a sentencing hearing for him. But he did this because he had, after making tens of millions of dollars, at least, on World Cup or FIFA bribes, realized that he had been caught. So if the jurisdiction isn't as simple as, oh, if you do business in America, well, then like you have jurisdiction. It may or may not be true, but in this case, it seems very clear that there have been significant business relationships between the bribers, bribees, FIFA, and U.S. companies on U.S. soil, which make jurisdiction a very simple question on this indictment. Additionally, I note that you said something about companies that may take a fall or at least be wrapped up in this. I don't know how big a deal it's going to be, but the indictment is very clear that there is an American sports apparel company that made a $160 million investment to be the sponsor of the Brazilian soccer team. The company is not named in the indictment, but it's really super obvious that pretty much has to be Nike, because that was what Nike paid, and it happened at the same time that Nike managed to get that contract.
So yeah, it was Nike.
So it's Nike. I mean, I don't know that, but like it's certainly Nike.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it'll be interesting to see if they go down in flames as well. Which I think is kind of bullshit, to be honest, because...
I mean, that thing will happen. They have plausible deniability, arguably, and they're so enormous that even if they went down in flames, it would be a blip on their financial radar.
The thing is it's really tough to work with foreign companies and foreign governments sometimes, and I know it's very common for people who are contracting with certain places over in the East that you basically pay a consultant on premise, so like someone who lives and owns a consulting company in that country, and in order to get shipments, in order to get things sent, in order to like do things with the local police or local whoever controls things, you can't pay them directly. Like if you're whatever manufacturing company, you can't just be like, yeah, here, we're going to give you cash. Like the same thing with my sales guy. But if you pay these consultants, they can kind of then do it, and it's pretty much just look the other way on. So yeah, I don't think Nike's going to.
I think nothing will happen to Nike. It won't matter.
Maybe these fucking attorneys are gonna go crazy.
Well, you gotta believe Nike has the best attorneys in the world.
Yeah.
I just personally hope the DOJ goes after the NCAA next.
That's what I hope too. I would love that.
I don't know. That would be. I don't know. I couldn't even imagine how awesome that would be.
It'd be
just
fantastic.
Like a rain of indictments down across the NCAA. The headlines would be outrageous. Imagine like all the money they'd be saying that they made and like the sketchy things they do, and it's just the craziest situation.
All right. On that note.
On that note, down goes the NCAA, down goes FIFA.
Fuck the NCAA, fuck FIFA, fuck the NBA, who's about to be in a lockout.
MJW, you gonna be at the opening game for Harbaugh?
I go to opening day pretty much every year, so I imagine I'll be there.
All right, that's our goal. Like, not that it's a highly set goal, but like let's go. I don't remember who it even is, but it's a patty cake, and then like let's go up there and like live breathe Harbaugh that day, and then the next week Utah is gonna bring us back to reality. But yeah, maybe we'll see you up there.
Yeah, I'll be wearing khakis.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. And just for the record, I'm gonna make Wiper happy, and I'm gonna predict Cavs in 6.
I got Warriors in 5.
You know what?
I'm also gonna say Warriors in 5, but I'll change it to
5.
6.
Fuck both of y'all. Man, all right. I'm gonna say Warriors in 6, just because I'm gonna go the whole Victor route and just try not to be Riverman. Like I'm gonna just do the anti-curse. But five seems like you guys realize that LeBron James still plays for the Cavs, right?
Last I heard, that's true.
Yes.
The Cavs, it's too bad the Cavs are so injured right now. That's what I'll say. Because with a healthy Love, it would have been a wild finals. It would have been absolutely wild.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun series regardless. Even if, I mean, the Warriors Rockets series was a lot of fun to watch really, and that ended in 5.
I'll
So
say
I think the games will be much better than the thread will be. I will guarantee. I don't know if I'm even going to post
ceiling
those.
Me neither.
the ceiling is insanely high because LeBron having to put so much on his shoulders
Yep.
is going to make for potentially just incredibleness.
Yeah, the one thing he does though is, even when he's considered just a slight favorite, when his back's kind of against the wall, outside of the Mavericks series, he really shows up big. Like we were talking about that Celtics game that you were at. I don't know, he finds ways. So I have faith in LeBron.
I would definitely appreciate seeing that LeBron come back again and dominate. All right, guys. Well, as always, it was good. Thanks for being on MJW.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's fun.
All right, man. Keep up the great.
All right, see ya.